Hello. I've started
Hello.
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we have this podcast. We are starting this podcast. And today we are going to talk about personal and political, or personal is political, whatever.
Yeah. Basically, I- basically, the two of us have been having experiences ever since the protest season began in India, which is last year. Well, last to last year now, 2019. And we both got a sense of this phrase, the personal is political. मेरे को अभी तक पता नहीं है इसका ओरिजिन क्या है, इस किसने बोला है, किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बोला है, but I just know of its existence. But anyway, the two of us have got like experiences which sort of fit this our understanding of this phrase. And since we've been accumulating these experiences for the past 2 years, we thought this would be a good time to discuss them out in the open. And so we decided, chalo, usme podcast shuru karte hain. So that's what we're doing.
And we haven't named the podcast yet. This is just the first episode.
Yeah, this is the name of the first episode.
So, this is personal is political.
Do
So,
you know what the origin is? Like, who said it
I
first? Do
don't
you
know.
actually?
We were talking on this call. When you said चलो collaborate करते हैं कुछ करते हैं and we were like चलो क्या करे and
Because
we decided.
I know many people who don't like this term because there is a connotation. Okay, so I'll just quote like what a friend of mine called it. He called it like a totalitarian sort of understanding.
Hmm.
And I don't really know. When he said it, I was like, ha, bilkul, bilkul. But now when I take a step back, I'm not able to get a sense of why he said that.
Okay,
So,
what did he say exactly?
yeah, we were talking about the whole Nirbhaya thing. Remember, we were talking about जब वो the Nirbhaya thing happened, finally the rapists were being hanged, and then the feminists stepped in. They were like, no, capital punishment is not the way to justice. I made a comment that this is, I don't understand why I made this comment, but I remember saying, oh, this is an example of the personalist political. And then this guy goes like, I don't see how. And now I'm like, why did both of us even use, like, where did this come from? So now I have my own understanding of it, but अब उस context में मुझे बिल्कुल समझ नहीं आ रहा कहाँ से ये बात हुई थी.
Okay. So, how do you connect to, your personal life? How do you now see your personal life being affected by your political thoughts or the other way around?
To be very honest, I feel really, I find it to be a huge disgrace that my personal life is affected by external and internal politics. But I guess that's the nature of human affairs. But I feel like especially in the last 2 years, ये बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है. And I know that you agree as well. You had your own share of experiences. क्योंकि पहले इतना नहीं था. मेरे फ्रेंडशिप्स में कभी भी पॉलिटिक्स नहीं आई थी बीच में. In fact, I wasn't even as politically active or as open about my views, or I didn't realize where I stood. It's almost as if क्योंकि politics emerge हुई तो हमारे अंदर conscience emerge हुई और हमें realize हुआ कि अच्छा, this is where I stand.
This is exactly what happened to me as well. मतलब YF के पहले my interest in politics was like very minimal. बहुत important चीजों पे मेरा ध्यान जाता था. Otherwise, I was far away from it. Then after YF and when this entire CA NRC thing started, I was like, okay, this is important. This is fucking important, and I can't ignore this, and I can't, stand ignorance for this. And that is when things started to get personal in my life as well. And अभी तो ऐसा हो गया कि even trusting people has, which person to trust has become a lot about the kind of politics there is, मतलब I just can't trust someone, even if they are my friend or used to be my friend or are friend of friends. like if they have views which are sort of like um, Muslims are bad or something like that, and that has become, matlab, the people you trust is heavily affected by politics. और ये मुझे पहले नहीं पता था, ये किसी को भी नहीं पता होता है, but ये सबकी लाइफ में हो रहा होता है. As women, we can't walk on streets late at night, and that is because of the kind of country we live in. And उसमें उसके अंदर जो politics होता है, that entire thing affects the people we trust, right? It affects the men we trust. It affects the relationships we form with men. And there are many things. So,
yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. It's almost like we don't really have a choice of being apolitical at this point.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
if I want to step away, वो हो ही नहीं सकता. Like, I remember there was this one person who hasn't been staying in India for the past couple of years. So she was watching the whole scenario, the NRC, all of this from a back. So she asked me, ki, how were you able to balance your safety along with your passion for this cause? And I told her very honestly that I never even thought about my safety. Because मुझे पता है, if I started to think about my safety, I wouldn't move from my house. Because there were so many factors to consider, like you said, like being a woman and all of that, let alone the crap that this government does, just about attacks anybody they see on the street if they are even remotely attached to the protests. Because, matlab, for me, like I had to close my eyes to so many things in order to pursue. And it's just like, now when I think about it, I recognize how many sacrifices I made and how, I mean, you could call it reckless, but how you need to be this reckless in order to do good in this kind of political scenario where we found ourselves. Matlab, it's like I said, if there is no choice of being apolitical, and if you're still finding a way to do that, you're not on the right side. And again, like, I don't like using right or wrong, but it kind of is, like 10
the
years
thing
from now.
is, this thing has existed ever since we were born. अभी बहुत ज़्यादा flared up है क्योंकि because of the current government. But जो politics में जो भी होता है, वो लोग, मतलब, we also were not into politics before. We got into it because somehow we got into an environment जहाँ हमें पता चला कि things happen in this way.
मेरे कॉलेज में होता था, DU में ये सब होता था. I don't
मेरे
know about
कॉलेज में ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं होता था. मेरे कॉलेज में, मेरा कॉलेज एकदम अलग था. तो उसके बारे में बात नहीं करते.
I attended college at the time जब ये सारा JNU का हो रहा था. Like the name they've got टुकड़े टुकड़े gang, ये name उस time बना था जब मैं कॉलेज में थी.
अच्छा.
And a lot of crap happened, like a lot of notorious things, like things that DU has now come to sort of mourn, not things, events. They all happened when I was in college. In fact, Ashoka was a very apolitical, gated community. So
Ashoka
for me,
but Ashoka academics and was not. In fact, मतलब मेरे को तो Ashoka academics से ही पता चला है चीजें बहुत सारी.
Yeah, but that's the problem with Ashoka. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not a problem, maybe that is the, what do you say, that's what happens when you're a private university. But what happens in a classroom is not what you apply on the ground. What happens in the classroom is what you think about when you go back home,
Yeah.
On the ground, it's a whole different story. Like, you don't have time to think. It's very instinctive.
Ashoka is
can't sit
on the ground वाला चीज अशोका में नहीं है. बस मुझे my interest in politics started with Ashoka, with that environment where I came to know about how society actually worked, how things worked, and how politics affected our personal lives in very, very deep manner. And that's when I started to get into it.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, again, it's very difficult to be apolitical, or rather, like, you're only apolitical at a surface. Like, you can't actually be apolitical. Because मैं न्यूज़पेपर ना पढूं उसका ये मतलब नहीं है मैं apolitical हूँ. अगर मैं प्रोटेस्ट पे ना जाऊं उसका ये मतलब नहीं है मैं apolitical हूँ. I know people say that if you don't, if you don't have, I don't know, if you can't see if you can't see through BJP propaganda, it means you're choosing to be you're privileged and hence apolitical. But I don't think even that is apolitical. I think even that is a very kind of specific politics designed to keep people away from knowing the truth, especially people who may be able to do something about it. Because I've been saying this for a while. If more privileged people go to the protest sites now, matlab, genuinely, the kind of good it will do, they have no idea. Because A, they have more resources. So if they have a way of documenting what's going on, they'll be able to send it across to more people. B, they will be able to like call in more people because they'll be like, oh, if this rich person is going and he's safe and he says it's safe, then maybe we should join in too.
Bigger
And then
network.
that
Yeah.
वो और ऊपर जाएगा, but वो नहीं होता है. And ये भी ये जानबूझ के करते हैं ये चाहते हैं कि इससे वही लोग जाएं. Because I have a lot of friends who are Muslims. They're like, भाई हम जाते हैं and then हमारे घर पे पुलिस वाले फोन करते हैं and they connect us to the Delhi pogrom. And so Muslim activists are doing it at their own, at the cost of their own lives. And they want it like that because they know that the Muslim people will be most affected. They'll be the most angry about this. So it's all very, if you think about it, it's very insidious. The more I think about it, the more angry it makes me.
It does. So do you remember the entire thing that happened with me on Facebook with my old college friends?
Yeah, I don't know why.
No, whoever they are, like people from my college. So anyway, that literally showed me कि so people can attack you and condescend you out of nowhere. They haven't talked to you in months or maybe years or whatever, and they just because you have some views, they just come in, they attack you and they trigger you. यार trigger करना मतलब वो भी बहुत गंदी तरीके से कि how can someone trigger you like that? I of course I got triggered because मैंने तो ऐसी चीज experience नहीं की थी पहले. मुझे नहीं पता था कि someone can act with me like this and someone can do something like this to me. And that was one more point where I realized कि having a stand or not only having a political stand but even having supporting someone or supporting a cause can get me into such deep trouble, personal trouble. Like it was a personal crisis for me at that time, and I've realized a lot कि उसके बाद से I've realized what kind of friends who I actually would want to call friends from there on.
Yeah. And I told you about my friend also. Like, this girl, like, we have been friends for 21 years. Like, this is not like a 2 साल की दोस्ती. It's a 20 साल की बच्ची, चड्डी बड्डी वाली दोस्ती. And, she she's saying things like, I know what's going on in Kashmir, but then when I share anti-Modi posts, she's like, just because you don't like him doesn't mean you have to put up these posts. I'm like, I'm a little confused. Those two sentences are coherent. And then when I call her out, and I do it very respectfully, I'm like, listen, I've been on the ground. Whatever you're saying, you're only, it's showing me that this government has won. The propaganda is successful. And this girl is like, thanks, I don't need this negativity in my life. Bloody hell. And then she, like, I don't know, unfriends me, unfollows me, does all kinds of shit. And I'm like, ये क्या हो गया? And मेरे को तो समझ ही नहीं आया कहाँ से आई ये बात. मैं तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं था. मैं तो अपनी रेगुलर एंटी बीजेपी पोस्ट डाल रही हूँ. मैं तो हर रोज डालती हूँ. I didn't ask her to see it. मत देखो तो मैं नहीं देखना. ये कैसे हो गया ये? Like, that's what I'm saying. The thing, like, you never see it coming. You think that I have been doing this for a while, I can take it. But then out of nowhere, it will arrive again and you will find yourself shaking and feeling triggered. And then you feel as if, like you कुछ हुआ, like how is it that I'm not used to this?
Yeah. And you can't be used to this. You can't expect someone you know for so long, and even if not for so long, but if someone has been your classmate or your very old friend, you won't expect them to attack you like this. And when they do, it really is like hard to accept कि ऐसा हो रहा है यार, सही में ऐसा हो रहा है, just because I have certain views and those views are actually the truth. But let that be aside. But मतलब that it can happen, that you can, that trust can suddenly fade away for people. And that's pretty much what personal is political is about, right? And I also,
Yeah.
one more thing, I want to know about your experiences from the protests, because mera protests wale experiences, so I they are not as extreme as yours. So
Yeah, where do I begin? Yeah, बहुत extreme रहे हैं. I don't know, but they've been largely positive. That's what I always say to people who ask me this question. I have always only felt comfort and peace at protest sites. It's only when I'm outside protest sites जहाँ पे मेरे को पागलपन फील होता है. घर पे बैठ के न्यूज देख के फैमिली के साथ दोस्तों के साथ दिमाग खराब होता है मेरा. But there is no better place to be than a protest site, because वहां पे people, there is a kind of, what do you say, not only
solidarity.
community, yeah, a community, a solidarity, but there is a kind of everydayness. मतलब जो घर पे नहीं है, नॉर्मल नहीं है यार हमारे घर. मतलब मेरा घर तो मेरे को नॉर्मल नहीं लगता. पूरा दिन अर्नब गोस्वामी चलता रहता है, मेरा दिमाग खराब हो जाता है.
हमारे घर
You
पे
know?
भी.
हाँ. So I'm like, वहां पे ये सब नहीं चलता. वहां पे खाना पीना चल रहा है, गाने चल रहे हैं. मतलब the way life should be, or the way I imagine life to be, people are trying, constantly trying to, I don't know, because they know that they are here to fight, and all this government wants is to make them lose. So they are doing everything they can to hold on to their strength, and you can feel it. You can really
Yeah,
feel them trying to find ways to just hold on and fight a little longer. वो
to be
fight
sane,
दिखती
to
है.
be sane and to be normal as possible.
And resilient, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's been my, I mean, if this is what you would call an extreme experience, which I understand why you would, because आजकल normally इतना extreme हो गया है, तो ये उसका opposite extreme है. ये normal है, ये normal हमें सिर्फ इन जगहों पे दिखता है और कहीं नहीं दिखता. Like I can't go to I don't want to go to families. मुझे किसी के घर जाने का मन नहीं करता, because I'm like, I don't know what they're going to bring up, and I don't know, I mean, I can't stand it. अब तो I can't stand it. मेरे को सब बोलते रहते हैं बेटा घर आ जाओ. I'm like, नहीं, actually कोरोना की वजह से मैं प्रोटेस्ट जा रही हूँ ना. I don't want to infect you if I by chance catch it. But the real reason is I don't want to hear your political views. I don't care. I know, I already suspect तुम संगी हो. And आधा तो and sometimes it's not because they're Islamophobic or whatever. Sometimes they're just ignorant. But I don't care at this
Most
point. I
times
can't
they're just
do it.
ignorant. Not sometimes. Most times they're ignorant. They, even if you see, we read this article. Do you remember? Facts don't change minds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually experienced that facts do not change minds. It's just people just wish to not hear what they don't want to hear. They just miss hearing it somehow. मतलब ऐसा मेरे मम्मी पापा के साथ भी होता है. मैं उन्हें कुछ बताती हूँ and they very conveniently forget it and then say something very random जो मैं उन्हें already explain कर चुकी होती हूँ 2-4 दिन पहले, and they are like, ये कब हुआ, ये कैसे हो रहा है, I have to explain it again. And I'm like, कैसे नहीं समझ में आ रहा है ये आपको. That's very common. हाँ, नहीं होता है ऐसा.
I mean, even with us, like अगर कोई मुझे आके कोई मोदी के facts बता दे, I'll be like, okay, so this happened. So I had shared a post on Instagram, which was a snippet from this news channel called Vion News, where this woman, she has a segment, I think, every day at a certain point, and for a very long time she's been talking about making China pay, because they are the reason. No, it sounds worse than it is. It's actually pretty good. So basically, she was stating facts about all the tragedies since, I guess, the First or Second World War, and how all the people responsible had to make payments, like large amounts of payments to those who were harmed and those who survived. And somehow, because of even though the COVID-19 has killed more people than pretty much any accident in the past, China is not taking any responsibility, and in fact, countries are making more deals with them. They're actually profiting. So she's like, why is that happening? You know, this is wrong. This country, what they did, they suppressed information. Because of them, now everyone is, you know, on their deathbed, and this is not cool. So I remember when I shared this post on Instagram, there was this one person who responded by saying that this is a hate mongering channel, and this show is sponsored by Volkswagen, no, sponsored by Skoda, and Skoda or Volkswagen ka koi connection hai, which has something to do with China, and so basically China is sponsoring this show. So she's asking you to boycott China, but she will profit off of China. And I'm like, okay, I can't prove that. Also, I'm not interested in seeking out the truth behind it. But I don't care if it's being sponsored by Skoda or all of that. What she's saying is true. So the fact didn't change my mind at all. If it was a fact, I didn't even bother to check it up. So agar hum as like so-called informed, you know, woke millennial intellectuals, हम जब ये काम नहीं करते तो हमारे माँ बाप क्यों करेंगे?
वही ना. और मतलब माँ बाप को काम करने के लिए कोई नहीं कह रहा, माँ बाप या किसी को भी, उन्हें हम बता भी देते हैं ना कोई चीज तो भी it just shoots out of their head somehow, and it happens with everyone I know. तो अब मुझे लगता है कि किसी को भी इस तरीके से बात करने का कोई फायदा नहीं है. यही मैंने सोचा है कि ऐसा करने से कोई फायदा नहीं होता है. If you have to talk, if you have to change someone's mind, not change someone's mind, but if you have to speak about the truth or what's going on, it's better not to do it, you know, on social media.
And I think, like, yeah, and I think the one, like, we were talking about this, and I was talking about this with Tirat also. That's what we were saying, that if you actually want to change someone's mind, like really bring lasting change, the first thing you need to do is bring your empathy to the table and accept their truth, no matter what it is. Like, tell them कि आप जो believe करते हैं आप मुझे बताओ, मैं सुनने को तैयार हूँ. And you know, they will also, once you say that, na, they will not meet you with hate. Generally, they will not, because they'll be like, "Acha banda sunna."
I think that has not been the case with me.
No, but that's because you put up something and they responded to it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying just a general human being, अगर वो तुम्हें बता रहा है कि मैं संगी हूँ, I hate Muslims. I'm saying from the opposite end, not you sharing something, but them sharing something with you. They are telling you, I hate Muslims. And if you have the patience and if you believe you can deal with this, I'm not saying that everyone should, because I think a lot of us have just reached our limits. But sometimes this is necessary, especially in our households. Bahut toxic ho jayega. So we do need to invest time and energy into doing this practice. Is to just listen, wo kya bol rahe hain.
So I've done this with my family. I've done this with one of my uncles, and he had told me many things about why he dislikes Muslims in general. And I heard him, but everything that he said was honestly just so, क्या कहते हैं उसे, ridiculous, that I didn't know what to do after that, you know. Matlab, you hear someone because you want to put up a rational argument or you want to talk logically.
But to build trust, you don't have to do that. Like, this is what I'm saying. ये चीज ना एक दो दिन में नहीं होती है, सालों साल लग जाते हैं. तुम्हें साल भर सुनते रहना होगा until they're like, हाँ यार, ये बंदा मेरी सारी बातें सुन रहा है, ऐसा क्या है, मेरे को ऐसा क्या बोल रहा हूँ. शायद उसको भी कुछ बोलना होगा. Maybe I'm not doing a, you know, good enough job of listening to them, and then they'll open up, be like, भाई मैंने तो बहुत बोल दिया, अब तू बोल. And then फिर तुम्हें जब मौका, that's what I mean. I feel like this is the difference between being a liberal and being a human being. This is the problem. Like
You know,
ideology.
this is very 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 emotionally tasking as well. मतलब तुम्हारा
Yeah.
mental health affect होता है अगर तुम, और बहुत ज्यादा affect होता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि थोड़ी बहुत चीजें that you can keep on handling it on a daily basis. When you hear someone spewing hate so much, it it's like you can't keep hearing something that is ridiculous over and over again without contesting it, you know. So it's
But I also think that, but the problem is what I have noticed is ki what liberals tend to do is every time they hear something that is, contentious or hateful, immediately they'll respond with something rational. And I feel like वो ज्यादा एनर्जी टास्क वो एनर्जी ज्यादा लेता है. तुम हर बार ही रिस्पॉन्ड करो, नॉट रिएक्ट, विच इज गुड. दे आर नॉट रिएक्शनरीज, दे आर रिस्पॉन्सिव, दैट्स अ ग्रेट थिंग. बट even that, why don't you what do you say, parcel out your responses upon gaining trust, not upon understanding their mind, but really like finding a place in the other person's heart. I'm not saying it's easy, dude, like this is harder than anything else, but I think that in the long run this takes the least amount of like emotional and mental energy, and it has the most lasting effect.
have you tried
And I
this?
think that's what we're not willing to do. I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that we are more willing to make the personal the political rather than, like for a second attempt to just understand a human being as a human being. And that's when my grasp on the personal is the political thoda sa shaky ho jata hai. Kyunki at some level I also think it's a choice. At some level I also believe that अगर हम एक दूसरे को, like if we try to see the world as just a bunch of human beings, maybe there wouldn't be so much what do you say, like there wouldn't be such segregation and polarization. It's because we constantly see each other as ideological enemies.
Identities, sub
Yeah.
identity sort of.
Yeah.
I know.
The whole identity politics thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you tried this? Have you tried doing this with anyone, and has it worked with you?
Okay, like I've had a counter experience of like doing this at protests where because we talked about this now on the phone, because like I said, protests may the protesters they tend to be very skeptical, and this particularly happened in the Jafrabad wala chakka jam. Because I went there and वहाँ के जो औरतें थी, they were very skeptical. They just believed कि सारी media is godi media and they are going to twist the tale of what's going on. And I remember when I was trying to talk to them, they were like, "Ma'am, we are not interested in talking." So I remember like just being at that protest and behaving in ways to show my solidarity with them. Like एक बारी आंटियों के सामने मैंने पुलिस वाले को कहा, like I remember they were sitting, these women were sitting and there was a police वाला. तो मैं बस ऐसी ऐसी मजे ले रही थी पुलिस वाले की. मैंने कहा भैया डंडा कब लाओगे, कब मारना शुरू करोगे? And then वो he started to get very defensive and then he ran away. And then the aunties laughed and that's when they were like, okay, we can trust her. So this is what I mean by just behaving like a human being. Like at that point I also didn't go with the goal of wanting to report, although obviously I would have loved to do that. My goal was first to just understand, to get a feel of kya ho raha hai yahan pe. But in order to report, in order to take this information out there, you have to be a part of the protest site, and you can only do that if you show them that you are trustworthy. And the ways to show them are not through saying ki I am against Modi या हम नारे लगा के, क्योंकि कोई भी नारे लगा सकता है, लेकिन अगर इंसानियत दिखाओगे ना तो that goes like it goes a long way. It goes a very long way. So but to ask your original question, to answer your original question, I actually haven't tried that because I remember जब ये सब NRC वाला time हुआ था, I had a huge falling out with my whole family and we haven't really spoken about it since. So at that time, my realization hadn't happened, And at that time I was too into the protests to be able to I wasn't emotionally stable enough, so I haven't tested it out with anyone in my family. And with my friends it has worked out, like, but then I would say the friends that I have are quite rational, then they're willing to listen to me, they already trust me, so they don't really count. And
Yeah.
जिनको जिनके साथ मैंने कोशिश करी उन्होंने पता नहीं अपना कौन सा रूप दिखा दिया और भाग गए. So I'm not saying it always works, but I'm saying if there is a way that works, this is definitely it, because it has worked. It
Okay,
has.
I think कि when you want to hear someone out, it is good. I know because मैंने भी सुनने की I've tried to do that with many people. In fact, the people who abused me online. So I've tried to listen to them what they wanted to say. In fact, मैंने उन्हें personally भी उनके साथ personally भी बात की, not just where it was happening. And you know, after a point, uh, it was just, you know, they did not stop doing personal attacks on me. It was just that how much ever I was willing to listen to them, how much ever I was opening myself up, ki, you know, I'm here, I'm listening, just tell me what you think and why you think what you think, so that, you know, we can have a discussion, we can have a debate, if that's what is needed here, or whatever, you know. And it was, every time it was a personal attack that came from the other side towards me, sometimes saying like, you know, ज़्यादा पढ़ लिया है तो you have, you know, something like that.
That's
I am
what
like, मैं बहुत
I'm
ज़्यादा
saying.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है यार, मतलब बस I'm trying to be, you know, open, I'm trying to be rational with you, why are you doing this to me? And that has happened to
But
me
hey,
plenty of times.
do you not remember? I think you were not in BGD, but okay. So you know what we learned in BGD? There's a psychological trick, okay? So we did a case study. I don't know, you may already know about this, but anyways, I'll reiterate it. It was a case study like of, let's say, 15 people, and they were divided into 3 groups.
Okay.
Top and like, no, first, second, and third, something like that. So basically, the first were like, let's say, the privileged, and third tier were like बिल्कुल ही, you know, गरीब, like बिल्कुल गिरे हुए road पे पड़े हुए, and the middle were the middle class. So the task that was set to the upper class, like the first class, was you have to find a way to make sure that the lowest rung of the society have their needs taken care of. And what does the upper class do? They try to be magnanimous. Like they're like, "आ जाओ, हमने आपके लिए पूरा दावत set किया है. We have beds for you. We have for you. We have that for you." And they genuinely wanted to do that because they were like, "Oh, we've seen through generations how these evil capitalists, they just use up labor ka money, and we don't want to be that. We want to be good, gentle, generous people." You know what happened? The
What
lower
happened?
class people, they were like, who gave you the right to decide that we are lower class A, and what gave you the right to decide what we want for ourselves? Like, we will tell you what we want. तुम
कितना
हमारे को पहले क्यों
condescending
बता
है
रहे हो?
ये कितना condescending है, do you see it?
But
मतलब
that's exactly the thing. That's what's happening in our thing as well. These upper class जो कर रहे थे, ये genuine, जैसे हम rationally करते हैं ना, let's have a debate, वो भी उसी भाव से कर रहे थे. लेकिन it was taken, the way it was received was the same as it was received in this case study. Because that's what happens. That's the whole, what do you say, fight for representation. जब हम बोलते हैं ना कश्मीर को आजाद करो, नहीं, कश्मीर को डिसाइड करने दो कश्मीर क्या चाहता है. क्योंकि जब तुम ये कहती हो ना, that's the whole thing of taking up space. Like, I don't like all these terms, but there is a psychological truth to them. We don't get to decide what another person wants, even though we want the best for them, because we don't know what is best for them. And to already put ourselves in a position of generosity, that we actually have something to give that you don't have, without them asking for it, like, that's what makes them feel even more inferior. Remember, there's another example where like which goes like, if you want someone to trust you, let them do something for you instead of doing something for them, because that's when they feel like, I am of value and worth to this
To
person.
this person,
That
right?
thing we need to understand. And that's what I mean, like when we say na ki aa jao, I'm up for debate, हमेशा तुम्हें यही जवाब मिलेगा, यही जवाब
नहीं,
मिलेगा कि
but
क्या लगता है
I
तुम.
didn't say it like that. I was like, so I was already being attacked. Okay, it started with attack, and I was trying to be nice. Uh, so I was trying to, on personal chat, मैंने अब this particular person, मैंने इससे बात की, मैंने बोला यार, you don't have to attack me like this. If you don't agree, just let me know what you don't agree with, and we can talk about it, and we can discuss about it if you want to, and we can also do it on chat, we can do it on call, whatever you like. So uske baad bhi all this, and I don't see, this is a different thing from what you are saying, because for me, in my case, I was never involving in condescension. I wasn't saying that I know better than you. I never ever intended that. I never said कि मुझे ये चीज ज्यादा अच्छे से पता है. I was like कि ठीक है, मुझे नहीं पता होगा, मेरे को, मैं भी नई नई आई हूँ यार, मेरे को भी नया नया सब कुछ पता चल रहा है. So maybe there's something I don't know, maybe there's something I'm missing, just let me know about it if there's, so then still there was not a response which, you could, क्या कहते हैं, थोड़ा dignified, जिससे तुम बात कर सकते हो ना, ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ. And that shocked me more. And that sort of mentality मैंने अब बहुत ज्यादा देख लिया. And I understand that, it's just toxicity. You can't do anything about it, honestly.
Yeah, there are some internet trolls that you just can't deal with. Like unse to dur hi raho. There are fence sitters that you can still you can have some conversation with.
Yeah.
But जिन लोगों को सिर्फ ट्रोल करना है, उनका तो कोई पॉइंट ही नहीं है, वो तो तुम्हारी लाइफ में तबाही करने आए हैं और कुछ और नहीं करने आए हैं.
They just bring you to a point, they trigger you so much that they bring you to a point where you will attack them too. And when that happens, they then tell you ki, see, you are just like me. And that realization is shocking.
And that's when you're like, oh my god, what have I done? And then you don't like yourself very much. Yeah. That's what...
Because that was shocking to myself. I got triggered, and I got very triggered. कि यार ये क्या हो रहा है, मतलब क्यों तुम ऐसा मेरे साथ कर रहे हो. एंड मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आ रहा है यार, आ रहा है तो आ रहा है, क्या करें. तो that's when I realized that, there's just some people who just want to bring you to their level. Yeah. And then they want to...
I find it more disappointing when it comes from spaces jahan pe people do and should know better. Like when it happened in the YF group, I was like, भाई आपने क्या किया ये एक साल? ये क्या कर रहा है? कोई पढ़ाई कुछ काम नहीं आई, तुम अभी भी यही हरकतें कर रहे हो, शर्म करो. I mean, at some level, I genuinely believe कि एक साल में आदमी change नहीं होता, but कुछ तो influence होगा. We have had such great teachers. There must be
amazing
something
teachers
that you learned.
Yeah, amazing, qualified, like so qualified teachers. यार हमें कहीं नहीं मिलेंगे पूरे देश में एक जगह पे. वो मिले हैं हमें उस एक साल, और सीखा है यार, काफी कुछ सीखा है. पर ये बस ये अब सीखा ना, ये इस एक्सपीरियंस के बाद सीखा कि खुद को कैसे कंडक्ट करते हैं और खुद को कैसे कंट्रोल करते हैं, एंड हाउ टू नॉट गेट ट्रिगर्ड व्हेन समवन इज डेलिबरेटली ट्राइंग टू ट्रिगर यू. एंड आई हैव लर्नड दैट यू मूव अवे फ्रॉम दैट स्पेस, at least at that point.
I remember Dwight taught us this. He was talking about the Machiavelli in the office, in the workspace.
Who?
Remember? Dwight.
Arey, haan. Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. That as soon as you know there's a mark who's out to get you, get out of the office, leave the space. They're change.
Yeah, exactly. Mark. That is the right term for it.
Yeah. People who are not from Ashoka will probably not get this reference, but basically like we know about Machiavelli, we know about like he's a symbol of a villain or a monster who is manipulative and who climbs on other people's shoes. So basically that if you not just encounter a person who's like that, but if you have to share a space with them, and you know that they have something personal against you, leave.
Yeah.
Because you cannot make them change their mind, because once they've decided you're their target, they are going to do anything they can to tear you down. So the
Yeah,
best
changing
option is
anyone's
to
mind is, the most taxing thing, and I don't think कि हमें ऐसा करना भी चाहिए. I think अगर we should just basically put people's experiences forward who have had bad experiences, and let the people watching it decide what they think about it. क्योंकि ऐसे इतने बुरे बुरे इंसिडेंट्स के बाद भी बहुत लोगों का दिल नहीं पिघल रहा है. जैसे डू यू रिमेम्बर अभी लव जिहाद के केस में दिस वुमन का लाइक मिसकैरेज हो गया था, एंड I talked to a person, and his response was ki his response to that was that a guy also killed a girl somewhere because he wanted her to convert. And I'm like, this is not the response. You need to see how bad this is. And if you can't see it by yourself, there's nothing I or anyone can do to show it to you. So it's basically like I need to move away from here, and I need to move. Yeah, because there's no point. You can't talk to a person who is putting an argument कि ऐसा भी होता है. अरे भाई वो बात ही नहीं है ना. बात ये है कि ये हुआ है और इसके ऊपर तुम्हें दुख होना चाहिए.
बस कोई जवाब नहीं होता.
हाँ,
that's true. It's so weird. Like the more I think about it, the more sad I get, and it's weird because I feel like we are actually in the middle of making history. There is nothing but hope in my heart for this fight that we found ourselves in, and yet like our past experiences have been so negative. I'm not saying nothing but negative, बहुत largely positive भी रहे हैं मेरे. The fact that I'm still doing this shows how much more like it tended on the positive side of things. But the point is that the negative was so negative that I was like, it actually, I feel like it cut me at my knees. I couldn't
शॉक हो गया
function.
यार, एकदम ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस था वो तो एकदम ही सही में. पर हाँ, I've had positive experiences with people too. मतलब there have been many people जो बहुत supportive रहे हैं when I was doing the sharing on Facebook, which I stopped because of everything that happened later on. I just can't deal with it anymore क्योंकि I don't think कि मेरा ऐसा करने से किसी को भी कुछ फायदा हो रहा है. मैंने तो बस ये सोचा था, और मुझे उस टाइम ये इसीलिए रियलाइज हुआ कि सोशल मीडिया पे यार कुछ नहीं होता. मतलब मैं मेरे को न्यूज शेयर करने का उस पॉइंट पे बस ये था कि हाँ ठीक है, हर चीज का अपडेट ना लोगों के पास जाता रहे. बट मेरे फ्रेंड लिस्ट में जिस तरीके के लोग हैं ना, उसके हिसाब से आई डोंट थिंक कि मुझे शेयर करने का अब कोई फायदा है. तो मैं कम ही करती हूँ. फेसबुक पे तो बिल्कुल नहीं, बट ऑन इंस्टाग्राम या समटाइम्स, and sometimes regularly, then I stop, then I begin again, so it goes on.
I think I stopped sharing because of other people, but I definitely stopped sharing for myself. I am just not reading as much because whatever I read depresses me. Like pehle when I used to read it, I used to feel like I genuinely felt empowered. I felt like, okay, I'm getting to know what's going on. But now the more I understand what's going on, I just feel sad. I'm like, I don't want to know. मेरे को protest में जाना है, मुझे वहाँ पे अच्छा लगता है. There are like a few. I listen to a few like कुछ I will read Caravan के थोड़े articles. मैं योगेंद्र यादव का live देख लूँगी बस. I feel like मुझे और देखने की जरूरत नहीं है, बस काफी है. And एक दो articles if somebody sends me, I will read it, but I will not seek out information otherwise.
No, I read a lot. इन सब पे अभी भी it's really sad. बहुत sad हो जाता है. तो बीच बीच में मैं बंद कर देती हूँ. Then I read again. So I maintain that balance. हम थोड़ा ऐसा कुछ सोचते हैं ना जिसपे that is sort of like, sort of a solution to how to navigate the personal and the political spheres of life.
सोल्यूशन नहीं है मेरे पास, वही है जो मैंने बोला था, एंड वो भी हर बारी वर्क नहीं करता. That's the thing. There is no short solution. You can't. Depends. It really depends. But if that, like I said, if there is a way that works, it's definitely this. Because every time that a way has worked, it's been this way. But it doesn't mean that it has worked every time.
This way, using this way is it's very, very, it requires a lot of your personal energy. You have to be a saint to use this way,
You have to be very committed also, and you have to be
Yeah.
very patient.
Yeah, very
And you have to
patient.
really love the person you're doing this for. कि
Yeah.
किसी के लिए भी नहीं करते हम.
You can't just have your, you can't stick to your thoughts and your whatever you have, whatever you know as truth. You can't stick to it. You have to just accept the other person for being the way they are, and
Yeah.
that's hard, man. That's very hard to do.
Yeah, to suspend all that, to test your knowledge, to suspend your beliefs, and yet hold on to them enough to be able to come back to yourself. Like, it's very complicated. You have to have a spine steel.
And
I
I've
feel.
I've tried doing that, not in this scenario, not in any political debate. I've tried to do that personally, specifically for one person that you know about. So yeah, I mean, I've tried to do that so many times for that person, and I always fail, man. I always fail to understand. And I try so hard, and I end up getting hurt. And I know, उस चीज का भी
It
पेशेंस
reminds me
चाहिए.
of that Linkin Park song.
मतलब उस चीज का भी पेशेंस
Yeah.
चाहिए तुम्हें उस टाइम पे कि तुम हर्ट ना हो.
Yeah.
And even if you are hurt, and how to deal with that hurt. And it's not always the easy thing to do, but I don't know why I've done that for that person so many times. But yeah, I think I've tried my best there.
I feel like there are some people who just don't want to change. तो तुम कितनी भी कोशिश कर लो नहीं बदलेंगे. और हम, I think हम में ये acceptance, ये ना मैंने अपनी मम्मा में भी देखा है. She's very like, if I pray hard enough, the miracle that I want to happen, it will happen. And I'm like, Mom, like, look at the evidence in front of you. There is no way it's going to happen. She's like, नहीं, prayer से सब हो जाएगा. And I really appreciate, it's not that I lack faith, but यार एक कुछ realism भी होता है. कुछ चीजें नहीं होएंगी, वो नहीं होएंगी, छोड़ दो उसको. पकड़ के तुम्हें सिर्फ टेंशन मिलेगा. There's no point of holding on to it. But नहीं.
But it's not about holding on to something, right? It's about understanding the person, what the person is thinking, and how you can navigate it, how you can understand that person, how and what part of that person to understand at a particular point, and how to, manage your expectations with that person, and how to.
Yeah, but and you know what you're saying, I think that's the solution. The solution is not ki we want converts. We want to convert people from Sangi to non-Sangi. The solution is to allow them the space to exist and speak their truth. And like not codify your expectations on them and force them to, change. Like, I guess that's the closest thing to a solution. जहाँ पे तुम सीख ही नहीं कर रहे हो. You're not going into it seeking to change someone.
Exactly.
You're going into it to understand them and to understand yourself.
And it really kills me when I don't understand this. Why is this happening? Why is this person doing this now? Why is this person thinking this right now? How have I caused it? Have I caused it at all? Or there are many things I think about.
Some people are not ready, and maybe they never will be. Like, like there's this quote that goes something like, सबका destination एक ही है, but some people just don't arrive. So we can end it on this note, I think.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. End it on a note of hopeful failures.
Hopeful failures. Yes.